Jasmine Crockett insults Barron Trump, "Sit down, boy," but his response shocks all of America. "Sit down, boy." The words rang cold. Jasmine Crockett's voice cut through the studio lights like a blade. She didn't look much older than Barron Trump, about 16, but her tone carried decades more confidence. The audience froze. It was the first salvo in a public showdown that no one expected. Moments earlier, the live feed had introduced the participants: Jasmine Crockett, rising political commentator; Barron Trump, teenager and son of a former president; Anderson Cooper, the moderator. The topic: America's future and youth engagement in politics. Now Jasmine leaned forward in her seat, lips curving into a half-smile, half-sneer. Barron remained standing by his stool, trying to settle in. She plainly showed disdain. Barron too young and too inexperienced to belong here, she implied. The tension was electric. Anderson Cooper cleared his throat, eyes scanning cameras. "Jasmine, would you like to start?" She nodded, still cool. "Yes." "Barron, what's your book list? What animated show are you passionate about? You're here because of your name, not your ideas." The words hit Barron hard. Murmurs rose from the crowd, a mixture of surprise and delight. Jasmine wasn't holding back. Barron squared his shoulders. He met Jasmine's gaze. He waited. She smiled. It was a smirk. She held the room's attention. "Care to share what you've actually read?" "You know, besides children's fiction," Barron didn't need a moment. His voice was steady and formed. "Actually, I've been studying George Washington, his leadership during the Revolution, the Constitutional Convention. He's called the father of our country for good reason." His words were clear, his tone respectful. The studio hushed. Jasmine blinked. Barron's answer was not what she expected. The moderation around them paused. Anderson Cooper leaned forward. The cameras closed in. In the seats, viewers leaned even closer. The story had shifted. This was no longer about age or pedigree. It was a test of Barron's grasp on America's past and his right to speak about its future. Jasmine Crockett, 16, confident commentator, opened with contempt. Barron Trump, 16, responded with knowledge. Anderson Cooper held the stage steady. The scene: a live political debate in prime time. CNN's downtown studio. Tonight's spotlight: politics-youth confrontation. Jasmine smirked, arms crossed. Her expression was condescending. Barron's mention of George Washington had caught her off guard. The cameras captured every nuance, a brief flash of annoyance, as if she scoffed at a child daring to speak. "George Washington," she echoed almost mockingly. "That's your contribution, a president who lived 2 centuries ago. Tell us, Barron, what modern experience have you? Have you actually done anything beyond history books?" Barron's jaw didn't tighten. He remained calm. He inhaled lightly, then spoke with quiet confidence. "I've volunteered at local shelters. I've interned with a city council office. I attended climate forums. I've read about John Lewis. His courage, his moral clarity inspired me. I'm not just citing the past, I'm building the present." Silence. The audience shifted again. Some breathed out softly, some nodded. Anderson Cooper interjected, "Jasmine, feel free to respond." Jasmine tilted her head, as though considering whether to bother. After a moment, she cleared her throat. "That's sweet, Barron, truly. But you're still 16. Your views are theoretical. You don't vote. You don't face real-world pressures: unemployment, inflation, taxes." Her statement felt blunt, but Barron held steady. He leaned forward, gaze direct. "Age doesn't preclude insight. Martin Luther King began speeches before he was 20. Malcolm X studied power structures in his youth. I'm not asking anyone to vote for me. I'm asking to be heard, to show that younger voices can analyze policy, not just tweet opinions." Jasmine arched an eyebrow, a slight catch in her rhyme. She paused. For a nanosecond the room waited for a reaction. Then she shrugged and smiled. "Fine. Let's talk specifics then. What's your stance on student debt forgiveness? not abstracts, numbers, percentages, implementation timelines. Barron nodded unfazed. Let's be honest, student debt affects 45 million Americans, totaling $1.7 trillion. Solutions include targeted relief up to $50,000 for low and middle-income grads, finance through progressive payroll tax on incomes above $250,000. Extensive studies show this can reduce defaults by 30% without significant budget impact. A murmur of surprise spread. Jasmine opened her mouth but paused. The flow of her next insult stalled amid the nuance of his answer. Anderson nodded slowly. Okay. Jasmine, your response. Jasmine composed herself. Your numbers are precise, but optimistic. Financing is one thing, delivery is another. Politically, Congress resists. How do you expect to navigate legislative gridlock? Barron met her evenly. Change requires advocacy. Youth votes if even 20 million under 30 Americans mobilize. That's a force legislators can't ignore. Look at midterms. Insert recent data. Youth turnout jumped by 12%. That's not hypothetical, that's impact. Now, the audience stirred chat rooms, tweets, live polls. 68% said he was credible. Jasmine leaned back. She searched for a challenge and landed on foreign policy. Fine. Let's pivot. What about global refugees? Care to comment on policies for humanitarian assistance versus national security? Barron paused. Refugee policy must balance compassion and security. I believe in rigorous vetting backed by intelligence cooperation. We can accept more families if we increase funding for security screenings by 40% and partner with NGOs for ground-based support. That's scalable. Jasmine scowled. She felt outmaneuvered, yet eager to land a blow. She glanced at Anderson. He offered her the mic. Jasmine took a breath, started. But do you have any vote? Any institutional power? She held her ground. Barron paused, then calmly said, I may not vote yet, but I lead a youth advisory board to a senator. Last month, we submitted a bill that passed committee review. Influence doesn't only come from ballot, it comes from engagement. The studio buzzed. A social media overlay showed hashtags like Gen Z policy and kids in the arena trending. Anderson acknowledged. That's impressive. Jasmine narrowed her eyes and tried again, targeting tone rather than facts. You've only been practicing politics for months. Do you even know the pressure of a national crisis? Barron met her. No, I don't have personal experience, but I've studied crisis response models, FEMA oversight, disaster economics. And I interned at a FEMA office in Houston after the floods. Understanding is built not only from direct suffering, but from immersion in the data and stories. I believe empathy can be learned. Jasmine exhaled, trying to hide her respect. The audience warily watched. She turned to the camera. All right, that's notable, but you're still a teenager. Barron nodded. Yes, he agreed softly. So what? When Obama was elected, I was 10. I followed his platform. That didn't stop him from making decisions that shaped my future, just as I hope decisions now shape future generations. Again, the room held its breath. Anderson cut in. Let's move to rapid-fire questions, 30 seconds each, starting with you, Barron. Jasmine glanced, irritated he'd earned that spot. For the next 3 minutes, Barron answered questions on education, climate action, immigration, healthcare. He was calm, articulate, factual. Light applause followed. As Section 2 closed, Anderson concluded Barron Trump, not just a son with a name, but a voice. Jasmine Crockett, sharp, critical, perhaps too quick to judge. Jasmine collected composure. She shot Barron a glare that spoke volumes, but he met it evenly, without flinching. The segment ended in thunderous applause. The lights dimmed after the rapid-fire round. Anderson paused, glanced at both. Let's shift gears, policy versus politics. Jasmine, start us off. Jasmine Crockett leaned forward steely. Barron, you've shown knowledge, but can you stand by your principles under pressure? Say Congress passes a bill taxing wealth above $250K to fund student relief. If your own family lobbies against it, what do you do? Barron looked thoughtful. I'd speak up. I believe policy should benefit the public, not only narrow interests. If I'm asked to choose, I'd choose greater good. I'd use my voice publicly and privately, write op-eds, meet with legislators. Principles guide leadership. Murmurs in the audience, a mix of respect and doubt. Anderson added, Jasmine pressed. That's easy in theory, but what if backlash hurts your family's work or your reputation? Barron didn't hesitate. Impact should matter more than comfort. If avoiding conflict stops progress, then silence isn't an option. The audience shifted. His resolve was clear. Anderson continued, great. Now, foreign affairs. Tensions with China are rising economic, strategic human rights concerns. Jasmine pointed to Barron. Your thoughts? Barron sat tall. Stance, constructive competition. Protect U.S. interests, uphold human rights, but avoid escalation. Encourage trade reforms and strengthen alliances, EU, Japan, ASEAN. Emphasize technology, fairness, climate coordination, a balanced approach. Jasmine quirked a smile. Sounds presidential, but which alliances, what trade deals? Barron pulled specifics. For tariffs, start with re-evaluation of Section 301 on intellectual property. Propose a multilateral coalition for IP rules. On climate. Rejoin the Paris framework, fully invest in green tech exports with partners. On Taiwan. Maintain status quo but increase diplomatic informality. Small steps matter. Quiet respect in the room. Jasmine paused, expression harder now. Anderson said, impressive. We move on to healthcare. Jasmine leaned in. Tell us, Barron, single-payer private insurance, hybrid. Barron nodded. Hybrid. Keep private plans, add public option for those who lack access. Cap drug prices via negotiation with pharma. Reference the UK system. Expand mental health coverage. Fund rural clinics with federal grants, ensuring 24/7 service. Social media overlay lit up. Viewers saying, surprising competency. Jasmine frowned. Your plan requires funding. What do you cut? Barron answered quickly. I'd reduce subsidies to fossil fuel projects, currently $20 billion annually, redirect that to healthcare. Combine that with wealth tax and elimination of corporate loopholes. That covers roughly $250 billion per year. A few gasps. Jasmine blinked. Anderson pressed forward. Final question of this segment, realpolitik. What if an ally asks for U.S. troops, but Congress pushes back, citing budget concerns? Barron locked eyes. I'd propose targeted deployments with clear objectives, transparent timelines and metrics. Use coalition partnerships to share costs. Ensure congressional oversight. Avoid open-ended missions. Silence followed. Jasmine's lips pressed thin, clearly impressed. Anderson summarized Barron Trump. With concrete policies, calm confidence. Jasmine Crockett, the skeptic. He paused, then asked Jasmine to close. Jasmine exhaled and leaned forward. Barron, you've displayed passion and data. I still question who you're accountable to: voters, citizens, adults. But I respect your commitment. Keep proving it. Barron nodded. Thank you. I intend to. Light softened. A moment of genuine respect passed. Barron exited the stage to polite applause. Jasmine followed with a measured nod. Backstage, Anderson greeted both. That was better than I expected. Barron, you held your own. Jasmine, you pushed hard. Good work. They exchanged curt smiles. As they moved to post-showrooms, producers buzzed. Social media tracked trends, Barron in the arena, Jasmine challenge. They saw commentary, some praising Barron's policy knowledge, others criticizing his age. Jasmine was noted for her grilling, but also for giving space in the end. Barron sat quietly, phones held by young supporters, lining screens with hashtags. He watched clips that showed his calm answers. One message read, AOC, never mind, Barron's holding it together. Another, too soon for politics, he's sharper than many senators. He looked up when Jasmine entered the green room. She paused, then sat beside him. "Barron, you surprised me," he nodded. "I respect you pushed me. Tough questions." "And you answered without flinching." She held out her hand. He took it. "Keep studying. This is only the beginning." He smiled. "I will." They sat side by side, 2 generations, one forum, mutual respect developing. Media clips, MSNBC, featured Barron's proposed wealth tax. Fox News highlighted his balance between compassion and realism. Twitter threads debated whether his voice belonged in national conversation. Jasmine Crockett released a statement. Barron showed promise. But debate is louder than policy. Let's see what happens when push comes to shove. Barron issued a public tweet. "Thank you for tough questions. I'll keep learning and listening." Gen Z matters. A week later, Barron received an email. "Dear Barron, your performance impressed us. We'd like you to join a youth advisory council on climate policy." Interested, he showed Jasmine. "They want me for real." Jasmine beamed. "That's a step forward." He replied, "Yes." Barron sat in his home office 2 days later. A formal email arrived. It was an invitation to join a youth advisory council on climate policy. The letter came from a respected nonpartisan think tank. They praised his debate performance. They highlighted his balanced approach. They asked for his participation. He stared at the screen. This was bigger than the debate stage. This was real policy. He picked up his phone and texted Jasmine, "Can we speak?" She replied almost instantly, "Let's talk tonight." Jasmine poured tea. She'd prepared notes. She looked calm, but her eyes held urgency. Barron sat across the coffee table. His posture was ready, attentive. They reviewed the invitation together. "It's a chance," Jasmine said, "but it's also a test." Barron took a deep breath. "I want to help. I want to learn. I don't want to be a face. I want to make a difference." Jasmine nodded slowly. "All right, then let's prepare. You'll need briefing, policy papers, experts." They spent the evening making a list. Climate science, economic models, energy transitions, vulnerable communities. Jasmine tapped her pen. "We must show up with substance." Barron agreed. He'd do the research. He'd ask experts. He'd build his voice. Barron arrived at a sleek conference room. He wore a crisp suit. His face was focused, determined. A small group awaited: data analysts, climate scientists, policy advisors. They greeted him with supportive smiles. A senior fellow, Dr. Alvarez, led off. He praised Barron's debate performance. He emphasized the need for informed youth input. He handed Barron a thick policy binder. "We work on decarbonization strategies, cost-benefit models, equity frameworks. We need your perspective." Barron nodded. He flipped the binder. Numbers, charts, case studies on renewable energy, carbon pricing, and community impact. A young analyst named Priya sat across from him. She explained rural energy access data. She showed how communities lag in green tech. She asked, "How would you address this?" Barron paused. He recalled his debate answers and added depth. "We need targeted grants for rural infrastructure, public-private partnerships to train local workers, incentives tied to jobs created, and oversight to ensure funding reaches real communities." Priya smiled. "That's solid. We can build on it." The meeting continued for 2 hours. Barron asked questions. He took notes. He listened. When the session ended, Barron felt exhilarated. He understood the stakes. He knew the work ahead would be hard. A local news outlet ran a story, "Teen Voices on Climate: Barron Trump Joins Advisory Council." The headline drew mixed reactions. Comments poured in. "He's just writing a name. Show us the policies." Finally, "Young voices matter." Barron and Jasmine watched the reaction. Jasmine pointed out, "We need control messages. Prepare talking points." Barron drafted clear statements. "I'm here to learn. I support evidence-based policy. I want to represent youth voices, not family legacy." They posted a short video. Barron spoke directly, "Thank you for the invitation. I look forward to contributing." I want to show what young leaders can do when they engage. It earned thousands of views and more supportive comments than critical. Barron arrived at the think tank's offices again. This time, others already sat around a large wood table. Ages varied early 20s to late 30s. A few government liaisons attended. Dr. Alvarez opened the meeting. He recapped the weekend's climate protests. He talked about pending legislation. A senior government advisor, Mr. Reed, spoke next. He outlined the committee's structure. It was broken into thematic groups: clean energy transitions, economic equity, global coordination, and youth engagement. They asked Barron to join the economic equity and youth engagement groups. Barron accepted. He felt the weight of responsibility. The groups broke into breakout sessions. Barron joined youth engagement. They discussed how to reach teenagers across the country. They considered online campaigns, school workshops, interactive toolkits. Barron shared his experience. In the debate, the audience was watching, but I didn't know how to reach Gen Z beyond TV. We need memes, live stream Q&As, school challenges. We need to speak their language, short, visual, interactive. The room buzzed with ideas. They sketched a proposal for a nationwide Youth Climate Week. After 2 hours, they reconvened. Each group shared progress. Plans were recorded, budgets laid out. The council agreed to draft a preliminary report for policymakers. Barron returned home that night, exhausted but hopeful. The local news ran follow-up Barron Trump moves from debate stage to policy table. Several online outlets remarked he's stepping up. Critics also reacted, is he qualified? Is this political nepotism? Barron and Jasmine sat together scrolling comments. Jasmine pinched the bridge of her nose. He's doing good, but some will always say he's a legacy figure. Barron sighed. I can't control what they say. I can control my work. Barron spent the day analyzing data. He coordinated with Priya and the youth group. They drafted Section 1 of the report, Youth Climate Engagement Plan. They included student-centered workshops in schools, social media challenges, Climate Gen Z, youth-led local cleanup events with voucher incentives, VR experiences showing climate impact in different regions. Barron wrote the introduction. He emphasized youth urgency. He tied it to economic justice. Rural communities, nomadic groups, historically underrepresented voices. Jasmine reviewed his draft. She made edits, refined tone, cited sources, tightened arguments. By evening, they had a polished section ready. Barron and Jasmine walked the neighborhood. Summer night, warm breeze, distant cicadas. Jasmine spoke without turning. I'm proud of you. You're doing meaningful work. Barron felt buoyed. I want this to matter. She nodded. It does. Keep your focus. He smiled at her, gratitude in his eyes. She squeezed his arm. The council would meet again. They'd finalize the report. The plan would be submitted to Capitol Hill and White House envoys. Barron would present it. He'd answer tough questions. He'd be under media glare again. But now he had experience. He had allies. He had substance. He felt ready. The Capitol felt enormous. Barron stood at the foot of the marble steps. A breeze rustled his blazer. Jasmine touched his shoulder, grounding him. This is your moment. Speak for the ones who don't have a mic, she said. He nodded, stepped inside, and walked to the hearing room. Inside, members of the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee were already seated. Staffers moved briskly. Microphones clicked on. The Youth Council sat together. Priya nodded at Barron. Across the table sat lobbyists, observers, reporters. Barron was first to present. He cleared his throat. Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Barron Trump. I am here not as a last name, but as a voice for youth across the country. He outlined their plan. He emphasized youth inclusion, hands-on learning, economic justice. He showed slides of data testimonials from young people in New Mexico, Kentucky, and Florida. He closed by quoting Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. There was a pause, then applause. soft but sincere, but not all were impressed. A congresswoman leaned into her mic. "Mr. Trump, what would you say to oil workers in my district who feel betrayed by these shifts?" Barron didn't flinch. "I'd say their voices are part of this plan. We're not replacing them. We're preparing them for what's next. No American should be left behind because we didn't plan far enough ahead." Her brows rose slightly. She nodded once. After the hearing, media swarmed. A reporter called out Barron. "Are you just here because of your name?" He stopped. "I'm here because I care. If my name gets attention, I'll use it to lift others' ideas." The clip went viral. That night, Jasmine and Barron sat on her porch. Crickets sang. "You handled that like a statesman," she said. He chuckled. "I'm still figuring it out." She looked at him seriously. "Good, never stop." But behind the scenes, opposition brewed. A senior columnist wrote a scathing op-ed, "Climate Theater, What's Barron Doing in Washington?" It accused him of being a figurehead wrapped in good intentions and family shadow. Barron read it in silence. Then quietly, "They don't know the hours we put in." Jasmine leaned forward. "That's right. So prove them wrong again." He would. The final report was scheduled for a White House roundtable next week. Barron would be ready. The White House roundtable room felt more intimate than the Capitol, but the stakes were just as high. Seated around the table were agency directors, business leaders, nonprofit heads, and one teenager, Barron Trump. He sat beside Jasmine Crockett, whose presence lent weight and to some caution. The president's climate advisor opened the session, eyes scanning the room. "Today we hear from youth who've crafted a practical framework, led by Mr. Trump and the National Youth Council." Barron stood. He didn't need to prove himself anymore. Not today, but he would speak anyway for those who couldn't. "Our plan isn't about political games. It's about jobs, training, and equity. It's about respecting the past and preparing for the future together." He handed out final copies of their policy framework. One CEO, previously skeptical, leaned forward. "This is solid, measured. We can work with this." Others nodded. The mood shifted. Barron had earned the room's attention not through volume, but through vision. Later outside, reporters waited. One called Barron, "What would Frederick Douglass say about today?" He smiled, tired but proud. Probably something like, "Power concedes nothing without a demand." Jasmine clapped him on the back. That's the quote. Back in New York, Barron stepped into his school auditorium. Students rose in applause. He paused, stunned. It wasn't about ego. It was about seeing something change. Not just policy, but perception. No longer a punchline, a partner.